What's up, guys? Welcome back to Two Sets and Two Cents. Because guess what? That's all the time we got. Welcome back to episode 3. If you've been with us since the first episode, I am amazed. But thank you. I appreciate you sticking with us while we continue to try out this format. We got 2 of our regulars here, Sean and Rod. I'll let them introduce themselves here in a second. I'm Gerald. If we haven't met yet, my friends call me G. My wife calls me G-Spot. No, she doesn't. I wish she did. But let's go around the horn here for a quick round of intros. Let's start with Sean.
What's up, everybody? Sean Emerald Bean, one of the guests here. Again, just throwing it down another night of hopefully entertainment and insight into some things. So, yep. Well, good to be back.
Thank you, sir. Rod.
Hi, my name is Rod. That is short for Rodrigo. The other nickname, we're all Filipino currently because Andrew's not on, but we all have our Filipino nicknames that we all grew up with. Do you guys know mine? Have I ever talked about mine?
Would it be? Start with a B?
Nah. So it's the middle of my name. You take the first R off, and it's Odri. So my parents would Odri.
Yeah. I have heard that actually.
Yeah,
I have heard that.
So
at your
people,
wedding, your parents were saying that. Yeah.
Everybody
would
would like yell.
Who the
that.
hell is that?
Rodri!
Odri.
Yep.
Wait. Rodri! Your cousin.
Yep. That's exactly what I grew up to. And
Love that.
What are your guys'?
Mine's
Filipino?
so simple. It's just Jer.
Oh, okay.
Jer. G-E-R. Yeah. And
Easy.
what's funny is that like half my uncles, they still call me Gerard. And I'm like, you've literally known me my entire life. Like, where did that second R come from? That's such a Filipino thing. What about you, Sean?
I didn't really have one.
Oh, yeah?
Such a simple, like, it's like one syllable in my name.
Yeah,
It is
a
one
it's-
syllable.
yeah,
Yeah.
Sean.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's
Doesn't
true.
make sense to shorten that.
That's true. Well, how about all the boys out there? Tito boy. How many Tito boys are there?
Tito boy. I have one.
3.
You have 3 Tito boys? What are their actual name?
Richard, Dennis.
What
I don't even know the third one's name. They call him Boy.
They just call him boy.
Yeah, they just call him Boy.
All of them are, yeah.
Yeah.
But the other
my dad is the Tito boy. My dad
yeah?
is Roberto.
Oh,
And he's Tito boy.
nice.
yeah.
Mine
Roberto,
is...
Robert, Bert, and Boy. Those are the ones that come to my mind.
That's
yeah.
Yeah, because Richard, you think he's like a cousin. I think he's a cousin, but he's
Did I
only
meet him?
No, he's like my mom's side. Like he's a little older.
Okay.
But it's like the Boy was it related to like because you said Roberto, but his name is Richard, but they call him Tito Boy too.
There's no rules to this.
No.
I thought there was something that I was missing when you said that.
No, someone is just like anointed. You're just you're anointed boy. Oh, and Tita Baby. Do you guys have a Tita Baby?
I didn't have one. Nope.
Okay.
But I've heard of it.
Yeah. What about you? Do you have a Tita Baby, Sean?
No, I never
Okay.
heard that.
Okay.
I'm
All
curious to know about the Boy thing now. I never thought about that.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
Super common, man.
dude, like my cousins, it's so hard to introduce my cousins to other people
Yeah.
because like everyone in my family, they refer to that person by a different name.
By nicknames, yep.
Yeah, by
Yeah.
nicknames. And it's not even like one nickname, right? It's like, I have a cousin named Jean, right? I call her Jing Jing.
My sister's first name.
She goes by Jean, right? So, and then like, there's like 4 other names that I hadn't even heard of. And like, we went to like a family gathering and I was like, who are you even talking about? And like, her niece like calls her something different. And it's like, it's so confusing. Anyway.
You know what the worst thing is? It's like when you go to like a relative's house and you see their name on the mail, and you're like, what kind of Bible scripture name? That doesn't match Uncle June. So what the hell?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I got the best one. I have 3 cousins, all dudes. They're brothers. Each of their names is Alex. Their first names are all Alex. Sean knows this. Sean's met him. And I like introduce him like, is this Alex? Oh, like, bro, they're all Alex and the dad is also Alex.
That's funny.
It took me like 20 minutes to like piece it together who Sean was talking about, but we got there eventually.
That's funny.
Yeah. All right. Weekly tradition. Gotta ask it. What are you guys grateful for? Rod, let's start with you, buddy.
All right. I got a chance to hang out with my cousins. Like I mentioned a few weeks ago, I had an aunt that passed away, so I've been spending a lot more time with family, and it's been like strangely like nostalgic. Like I'm brought back to like 1993. Where we were hanging out, the playlist. It's like my aunt's playlist too, so it's like all these hits from like 70s, 80s, and 90s, right? Like All for One comes up, or like Boys to Men is playing in the background, and I'm like, dude, it's like I'm in 4th grade all over again, and I'm just like, but to share those moments with like my cousins that I like grew up with, it's been pretty cool, and hoping to maintain those connections now that we're all big kids essentially.
Do they live near you? Like, are they? Or it's
We're
like
kind of
you have to fly to see them, sort of thing.
no, it's kind of mixed. There's some like in the north, there's some in SoCal. But my cousin Ryan, he's over in American Canyon. So he's very like, hey, let's hit up a winery. Come
Nice.
crash here, So
Hell yeah.
yeah, me and wine, so it makes sense.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sean. How about you, sir?
This it might be a broken record on these things, man, but again, just grateful for time. It's grateful to have time to just do things and appreciate things. Yeah.
How'd you use your time this week?
This week, well, came out and he was hanging out with me for like 2 days straight.
Nice.
Oh, so nighttime was pretty busy. We did a silent disco last night. That was fun.
Oh,
Had a coffee event.
what kind of music did they play at the silent disco?
It was like the one had like top 40s mashups, and then the other was like straight EDM, and the other one was kind of like trap house mashup.
Wait, how does that work? So like you go, and then if you're trying to talk to someone, you got to take the headphones off?
Yeah. It's
Ah,
quiet,
okay.
but everybody but then you have headphones, you just change the channels based on color.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Like there are different rooms, and then you have to change.
Oh, you're all in the same room. Everybody has headsets on. You just change the color.
Why do you have to change the color so that
That's
you
how
know
you
you
get
listen
the
to the same
different.
thing?
But there's like 4 DJs playing at the same time.
Oh, that's a trip.
That's what I meant by
Interesting.
that.
When
we play what kind of music, you have like the 4 different DJs like playing different style music.
I see.
You see everybody rocking, you see what color they have. You just switch like, oh shit, that's the shit. And you just everybody's
nice.
there getting it on, and then
Okay.
like, oh, it's a stupid song, and you switch it. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh shit.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. But then, like, what if you miss the beat drop? Like, you kind of
then
miss
you
the
miss it.
suspense a little bit, right?
And you miss it. Yeah. You just stay tuned for a little bit and you listen. Like if the DJ's sound is good and you can see him going, then yeah. Or you just kind of, if you're not really feeling what's on, you're kind of watching the crowd.
Yeah.
And then like you'll see a wave of all of a sudden everything's green and everybody's jumping up and down. You check it like, oh shit, then it comes on.
Nice.
So
That's
that's
awesome.
you're kind of going with the flow.
Maybe that's how I'll come out of my retirement, out of my EDM show going retirement.
Yeah.
There you go. You can bring your kids to that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
For that one.
That's true. Speaking of kids, that's what I'm grateful for this week. We took the family out to Crestline, which is just north of San Bernardino, and it was amazing to be in the mountains again. Like it's been a minute since just getting that really cold, like, oh my God, it's actually 30 something degrees out here weather, and then it's foggy and, there's not a lot to do. So you kind of just have to like sit there and love the environment. And it's so different with kids. It was a really cool experience, and very grateful that we have, to your point, Sean, the time, the resources, to be able to do those things for a long weekend. And yeah, no, I mean, it's been definitely a new experience for me because, I think, this, Sean, like our getting away was going out into the Sierras and getting lost for a few days with 2 liters of bullet in a platypus, and yeah, searching for the next adventure. I got a story about that, which I'll come back to later. But
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So speaking of resources, I think one of the things that I've kind of been thinking about, and it's shown up a lot in my daily life, is how do you manage money, like within your relationships, right? Like whether it's your your partner or the people closest to you. And this is a very broad topic, but the reason I bring it up is it comes up in my marriage all the time, right? It's like, how do you agree on money? Like, how do you think about those things? So again, very broad question, but maybe let's start with you, Rod. I'm curious, like how do you and your wife sort of think about those things?
I think for us, we handle like necessities first, right? Mortgage, like utilities and all that stuff. Yeah, I guess my wife is the one that she's like an Excel nerd. I don't know if you guys know people that like will pull out a spreadsheet even though we're like whatever. She's more visual that way. So it works. And essentially every so often, I know we need to do it again, but how much we're currently pulling in,
Yep.
expenses on the side, like, the Netflix,
Cash in, cash out.
the
Yep.
Crunchy Rolls, yeah, and then where the surplus is, and then how do we distribute that? I think one thing where we've been mostly staying okay. We've been in our place for coming up on 3 years now, and things have been okay the way we're living. But I think lately we've been more like we should look into what do you call it? Investing into stuff.
Yep.
I guess that's where I'm a little
Like assets, any sort of assets, or like something
Sure.
specific that you're thinking about?
Well, I think right now we're starting small. Like for me personally, I'm putting like a couple $100 aside per paycheck. I mean, outside of like retirement and stuff, I'm just contributing to stuff. I probably should be more well versed in it, but I'm like, oh, I heard this on the news, blah 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 blah, and then
Yep.
yeah, I'm
How
kind of
often are you doing that exercise that you had mentioned of like looking at stuff?
realistically, it's when we have an argument about finances. So it's almost like a reset. I mean, we haven't had one of those in a while. Things have been stable, but like, been together for like 11 years now. And there was a point where I was like working at Best Buy and trying to figure shit out, working at doctor's offices. And I was just like, dude, we're kind of broke. So we had to really crunch down and see what wasn't working, what was working, and did my career choices at the time make sense to kind of support what we needed?
What do you feel like adds pressure? And sorry if I'm like pulling at this, but like I'm curious, like when you say you have like a blow up, right? Or you have, like something that's happening to release the pressure, like what is building that pressure?
I think to Sean's point about time, I know for me, like I can work a lot of overtime, and my career allows me to make way more money through overtime. So to me, like it's like padding. Like I don't know whether it's for future, whether if it's for trips, or whether it's for like I'm going to buy some new shoes or whatever, right? So just having a little bit more cash flow helps. But at the same time, it pulls time out of my day, right?
I see.
I
I
know
see.
sometimes on the weekends, there's like, we want to do this, we have errands to do, go to whatever Trader Joe's. But sometimes I see every hour as like, man, that's a time and a half, man. Like
Yeah.
that 1 hour was this worth this much to me. So
Sure.
that's kind of a skewed way of looking at life, unfortunately.
No,
But
that's as real as it gets, and that's why I'm curious because yeah, and I'll get to my story in a little bit here, but
yeah,
yeah, thanks for sharing that, Sean. I want you to jump in here. I'm curious, like,
Yeah.
what's your thought? Like, how have you done it in the past? How do you even think about it now? Like,
Yeah.
just curious how that's evolved for you.
What's crazy is while like certain parts of my marriage weren't great, I think on the finance part, that was actually something I'm really proud of. Like just being like that. Like when we first got together and started dating, like I came out of another relationship and my finances weren't the greatest. Like I wasn't saving as much, definitely spending a lot, but I was in the process of fixing things and I was trying to find like the easiest tool, because there's a lot of different like methods or things that you can
Sure.
follow, manuscripts, and if you follow them, they'll work, you know. But which one would like fit me most? But also at the time, like I was always on this kind of spiritual thing, and then I don't know, you guys heard of Dave Ramsey? So that was like one of the things we talked about before we got married. Like we talked about finances, and we kind of poured everything out on the table. Like everything was on the table. And one of the things that, Dave Ramsey's, not to kind of shout him out too much, but I will, because it works, was that, they just believe in pure transparency. Because knowing that, finances are like a big thing in people's relationships. So we wanted to make sure that that wasn't a thing. And so right when we got that, like before we even got married, because we started saving for the marriage and stuff like that, we were using Dave Ramsey's like program. It's basically like a zero-based budget.
Oh,
We
got it.
had accounts that were connected, so we knew everything. Like we subscribed to the app, so like we tracked everything. So every month, like, when transactions came through on certain cards or accounts, we slid it over to a category and you basically budget everything.
Yep.
So at the end of every month, there's every penny almost has an assignment. And so it goes everywhere. And so that was hard for me because like, in the beginning, we limited ourselves to like $200 personal budget. Like do whatever you want with that. And I would blow through that real quick, just going out every now and then. So it's just like learning how to work within that range. And that became hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really what we did. I mean, we
Yeah.
had like investment stuff with our work because we both have pensions. So that's like autopilot already. And then we both have like separate investments that we use that are just kind of automatically go out. And then I don't know if I've always had like a stash account is what I usually use. And so then I earmarked weekly amounts. And at first it was only like $5 a week just because I knew like, okay, I'm not going to miss that. And then, so that would always go out.
I guess like the
Yes.
zero-based budgeting, that's
Yeah.
very important, right? Like I think
Yeah.
that's a super fundamental way to look at like your finances, but like
Yeah.
in the context of the relationship itself and talking about money, what was the biggest shift that you had to make? Because you had sort of alluded to like your previous relationship and
Yeah.
what that was like. And then, can you go into that a little bit? Like, I'm just curious because I will go into my story here in a
Yeah.
second, but I'm very curious, like what that thing was for you that clicked, or you're like, oh, I like this, right? This is
Yeah.
no longer a chore. You have a positive,
Right.
association to it. Like,
Yeah.
what was the thing there?
I don't know if there was a thing versus just something that I already knew worked. And I was okay trying because I was already on this kind of journey of trying to find like a system that would work for me. So when I looked at it, it worked for me. So it was like I was fine with it. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
I see.
at least I can't.
So the shift probably happened even before you got into the relationship then.
Yeah, but I was
Got
still like, I still wasn't sure like what to do. Like I was like cutting spending. I was putting stuff here. but there
Yep.
wasn't like a system. I
Oh, I
wasn't
see.
following
I
anything
see.
specific.
So you didn't have like a real framework to
No,
base. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It's like I didn't
I
really
see.
have anything, but when we started following that, it's like, it was definitely a clear roadmap and a clear like instructions for me, and that I need that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you guys both for sharing because like I think for me, I've had to make a massive shift in terms of how I think about finances in general, right? Like I think I've been generally okay, about finances. Like I wouldn't say like I was the best. And I wouldn't say I was like out there blowing all my money either. I think the main shift probably happened because I have a family, like where it's like, okay, to your point, Sean, like everything needs to be accounted for, uh, both in and out, right? Like to kind of what you were saying too, Rod, like, and having that, there were moments where, the pressure would build up. And that's why I was asking, right? Like questions would get asked about like, how are you thinking about your finances, right? Like I would talk to my wife about this and she's like, well, a lot of what people do, and this is like a very high, like in the clouds sort of maybe even philosophical conversation, but a lot of what we spend our money on is actually a way for you to externally validate yourself, right? It's to show others that you are successful or that you've made it to a certain point or whatever, right? And I think for me to like really distill that down and be like, what are the things that I am doing that in my life with, right? Where it's, oh, this isn't actually for me. It's to show, the Joneses next door that, hey, I've hit a certain point. And then there are other things where I felt that way initially, but when I was really like thinking back on it, it's like, actually, this makes me super happy. Like even if no one else was around watching me, I would still do this. Like I would still have that thing or that experience and um really
What's
just
a
like
what's a what's an example of a thing or experience for you?
yeah. I'm glad you asked me that. So when I first met my wife during the pandemic, um I had a blue BMW 335i M Sport and I
Hmm.
loved this car. And I think for me, like I bought it for me, right? And when I first met my wife in person, she was like, "Wow, like you're one of those people, like rolled up. It's like this bright estral blue, and it's like not a quiet car either, right?" 30 minutes after having met her, she's like, "Do you know someone keyed your car?" And I was like, yeah, at first I was like really mad about it. And it was literally two key lines that went from the front right fender all the way to the rear back panel. And it was like in the metal. Like it was
Yeah,
deep. Like you couldn't buff that out.
yeah.
And I was just like, I bought this car because I love the way it drives. I enjoy driving it. I am sitting in the passenger seat and I can't see on the outside. Like this car is for me to drive and enjoy because that's what I want to do. Right.
Mhm.
And that framework, I think, of just trying to understand, like being honest to myself, of being like, what are the things that I actually care about, and then what are the things that I'm doing. Like here's an example, like clothes, right? Like I used to buy a lot of clothes, and I would rotate through clothes like pretty regularly, and part of that is like I was dating, and you kind of, I mean, you know how that goes. But anyway, my point being is that like that part was not something that I felt like if there was no one around, I would still spend money on it. I wouldn't invest a ton of my time and energy into it. Cars, on the other hand, like I don't care if I'm the last person on earth. Like I am gonna get the most fun car that I can afford, and like that's the point of privilege, and I totally understand that. I think it's more going back to our conversation about like what are the things that you hold the line on, right, in your relationship. right? It's like, Rod, you mentioned Crunchyroll, right? Like, yeah, like I'll pay whatever it is, like $12 a month for that. Like it's totally worth it. But I think it's a larger conversation, which I think to your point, Sean, it's like all about transparency, right? It's like go line by line each one of those things that you actually care about and be like, this is why this is here and why I'm paying for it. So anyway, that's my little tangent, but it's just been coming up a lot, and that's why I was just curious, like if something has changed in the way you guys have thought about your own resources, your own, cash flow, if you will, but maybe it's more about time, right? Like what you were mentioning, Sean. So I don't know if there's anything you want to add on that.
I think, man, I was talking about this too this past weekend. And I think the world has evolved in a sense, in another point where, like, how do you say this? Like people, like if you're younger and say you're smart, successful, you did all the right things, I guess, quote unquote, right things. You went to school, you did all this stuff. And then now that you're done, you go out in the world, you spend your money, you're able to do more things. You made it through college, you got a career started. But then you're told that, but don't buy these things, otherwise you're trying to be rich, because rich people don't wear certain things. Rich people do this. So you're told, like, don't do that because you're going to look rich. Like, oh, you're one of them. You must be trying to show off that you got that car. But to me, it's like, if you, like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm trying to understand how that came about. Like you see these memes of people where like, there's one on one side, you'll put broke person trying to look rich and they're all flashy. And then the rich person, looks dirty and sloppy as hell in some shorts and some nasty slippers, but he's the millionaire. Like you're supposed to look like that if you're rich.
I don't think they're mutually exclusive.
They're
right?
not, but that's to me the messaging. It just like
there is that messaging, right? And I think part of it is it comes from it's like there are those people that hit the lottery. There are some people who came, they're trust fund babies, right? There are some, like you can get to wealth in many different ways, but like if you are starting from a place where you don't have anything, like spending a ton of money on things like clothes, things like cars, things like non-appreciating assets, really, right? Like that will not help you become wealthy. And I'm not saying I'm wealthy, like at all. Like that's not where I'm going with that. I think that's the message, not that like you need to look like shit. Like I am admittedly, like I have a certain level of vanity. Like I will look in the mirror and I kind of like what we were talking about last time, Sean. I'm going to come out of winter and I'm going to be like, you look fat as fuck right now, Gerald. And I will literally say that to myself in my head. That might not be the healthiest thing, but my point with that is there is, a spectrum of outward, projection that people want to have, right? And so like, where is the line between outward projection and inward satisfaction? So I think that's what I'm trying to pull at here.
That's the thing though, is like, there is no line. You don't know everybody's like circumstance and what they are. And what you said earlier though, is like, you don't have anything. You shouldn't go and buy all these. I get it. Like, I'm just saying, like, you're in a good place. And this is what we were about yesterday, is like, you have your investment accounts going. You have your retirement system all flowing out. You have your emergency fund, like everything. You don't have debt, right? Everything is in their pockets. All your money's going. But at the end of every month, you have $2,000 of just expendable money that's just there. After like everything that you're supposed to be doing to set yourself up is like in place. Like if you put any more money like into your retirement account or your investment or your emergency. It's like you're almost like putting like 90% of it away and you're not spending anything because you have this idea that I would rather do this or I'd rather do this. And then what's that Millionaire Next Door or that one where where it's like you're gonna die with all your money because you're so worried. It's like the Asian people who wrap everything in plastic and like, no, we don't want to use it. We're gonna save it. You're gonna save it. Where are you gonna save it? You save it for so long, and then it's like, and then you're like miserable. Like you don't like. To one thought though, it's like you save so much because you think you're, because in this is just a lot of people that I hear that are in a good place, and it's like they save so much and they don't buy anything because they have this thought of like, nah, I got my money. Like, I have this money. I don't need to do that. And I get it. But I also think it's like partly because they wouldn't know what to do with themselves if they wanted to go out because they didn't grow up that way. That's where I think it is. It's like they don't have the confidence to even go out there and do that and to carry themselves in a way. And so it's masked as this, I don't have to be like that. That's what I think.
I used to agree with you.
Yeah.
Until I married into my wife's family.
Yeah.
And my wife's family is like what you just said, right? Like they don't spend money. They're very financially literate, which is something that I was not, like growing up. Like that was not something that was, I mean, it was instilled in me, but like the level at which her family understands finances, it's like I'm learning stuff all the time. And like my point of where I disagree with you now is that you no longer need to spend the money to feel like it will make you happier. And I think the other part, and I don't want to like keep harping on this because I understand like I'm the only one with kids, is that like at some point a lot of that money needs to be allocated for the next generation, right? Like however you look at that. I'm not trying to have trust fund babies. That is not like, it's more about like, I want your education taken care of. Like even if you become, like you do a double PhD, like you should at least be covered for part of that, right? Like I'm not saying I'm going to let you be in school for 45 years and I'm going to pay for that scot-free, right? Like that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
My point is that like I as your parent now have a different understanding and a different lens of like what does spending, to your point, Sean, 10% of my total income and then saving the 90% to do something else with it as opposed to spending it on myself, right? Like I know you're talking about some friends that maybe they don't have that family, right? And then maybe they're looking for it. And maybe the balance is that, hey, if you spend some now, you might actually be able to meet someone because you're putting yourself out there a little bit, right? And those are different avenues of like using the cash that you have and not taking it with you because you can't anyway, right? Like you literally cannot take that money with you. So it's like, what is the planning? What is the conversation that you're having internally with yourself, with your partner, with your family, with, whoever else is going to be affected by that money, right? And I just bring that up because that has become a conversation that it's almost like every day in my household. So,
I think what I should have disagreed with, or I even opened my mouth, was your premise. Your opening premise was that people spend for external validation, and if that's a belief, then it's going to be very hard to like understand and think this, because that's what you're basing everything on. And I get it, because you mentioned like, well, you have to do this to make yourself happy. Like I don't believe that. I don't think that you shouldn't do that, right? That shouldn't be the purpose. You should do things because you actually want to. You should do things because it makes you happy. Do it for yourself. But what happens is you fall into this, like, you fall into this place where you start all of a sudden lose that because you believe in this thing that I shouldn't do this, because if I do this, it's like I'm just trying to make other people happy, when it's, you're changing your own self based on what you're surrounded by. It's like if you've always liked F1 cars and you could afford your own damn F1 car, but the people around you are like, but you need to save for the kid.
Right.
Like,
Totally.
no, like,
Yeah.
I want an F1.
And it's a
Like,
very
I want to buy
personal,
myself an F1 car, and it's
right.
going to
And that's a
make me
very
happy.
personal conversation, right? And a very like that's something you have to be honest with yourself about,
Yeah,
right?
that's the bigger
That's
conversation.
that's really what it is,
Yeah,
right? And I
that's
think
the conversation.
to your point, like maybe my original premise of like how I framed that probably was a little bit vague or inaccurate. I think it really does start with that like honesty with yourself first,
Yeah,
and then having the conversation with
yeah,
others. Otherwise, you're going to be talking past each other,
yeah.
right?
And that's where I
So
think like we actually agree on the same thing. It's like, it's more like, look, if you're going to spend stuff, don't do it if you're broke and you're in debt and you're doing
Mhm.
it to get in debt. Don't do that. We
Yes,
agree on that, right?
yes,
And then the other thing is like, if you are going to spend on something, do it because you truly want it.
yes,
Don't buy something and post it on Facebook for everybody to see, because then that clearly tells you who you're doing that for.
totally.
Like,
Yeah,
nobody need do it, even though nobody sees you doing it. If you're doing that, then by all means, you should spend money if you have it, you know?
yeah,
And I think we're saying the same thing. It's like that's what it is. And it boils down to like our earlier conversations about just self-awareness and being great and just knowing where you are so that the decisions you make in life are guided by you and nothing else.
yeah.
Because
I agree
then,
with that
it's like you can't blame anybody for anything.
for sure.
Like,
I totally agree with that.
my
Rod,
right,
you have anything to add, buddy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So while you guys have been talking, the one thing that comes up as far as thing to buy or expense that like I love is traveling. I feel like that's on a very different spectrum of experiences because I don't know, I'm trying to think of your example, Gerald. And like I like to travel or I just like to do experiences and not take a photo or whatever. But then yeah, I kind of screw up because I'll forget about it. And like my wife loves to take photos and she'll actually, look at it years from now and like, oh, remember when we did this and all these memories
Yeah.
and stuff. But like I love like traveling and experiences and I'm trying to think of, is it for external validation? Sure, maybe a little bit, but at this, like, to me, like traveling is like, one, I'm not working, right? It's like you get to turn your brain off, actually relax and do what you want to do, whether that's like hanging out on a beach, eating awesome food in another country, or like we do escape rooms. We travel to LA and we'll hit up like 7 escape rooms in 3 days.
Nice.
Well, our brains are fried at the end of the trip, but that's what we want to do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know, how does that apply in both of your guys' sense? Because it's not a thing. It's not a tangible,
Yeah.
like a purse or a car.
I love that
It's
question. Yeah, I love that question. So the reason, let me back up. Like the reason the car is amazing to me and why it fulfills me, like, and I'm so happy is it is the experience of driving. It is the experience of like mashing on the gas. I know the limit of the car. I'm going to kiss that apex perfectly. And what I do, I'm going to have the biggest fucking smile on my face. And there's no one around at all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it is the experience. And so the reason I think travel is important and why I think it's so, just in my own frame of reference, right? Like, obviously everyone is different. I shared that story last week with you guys about going to the Philippines, right? And just seeing people who live differently, right? Like, I think my view on travel has evolved, where I just wanted to go for, I just want to eat good food. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think part of it is I want to see how other people live, I think it makes every day, like my every day at home, better.
Sure.
Because I have seen how other people live. And it's not because like, oh, I'm so much better than you. It's like, fuck, I am so goddamn lucky, for all these different reasons, like whatever, right? Like you can list all the number of reasons that you feel lucky, but that's what it does for me, right? And I think um, it's something that I want to pass on and be able to enable for my girls, right? So anyway, that's me. How about you, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same thing, like the same principle behind whatever you spend your money. That's the whole topic of the conversation. It's your why are you spending money to get or do what it is that you're doing? You know, are you doing it for yourself or for your spouse or for your kids or whatever? I think that's really what the important thing is. You know, like
Yeah.
you really feel connected to that thing or to that experience for you. And like if somebody asks you about it, you're going to tell them because you feel good. You want to share that, you know? It's kind of like if I go somewhere, I can do it by myself, but would I want to invite somebody if they're asking me where I'm going? Yeah, it's fun. It's good to have a companion with you, but I would perfectly enjoy that thing myself too.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing it for me. It's something I genuinely want to do. And I think, yeah, so it's the same. I think it's the same principle, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I think that's such a good
Why?
point.
It's that why part that I think we agree on.
Yeah.
You know, you have reasons, like you have your family, your kids, and to me, that's just like those are just extra buckets that I don't have to worry about. You know, like that where you need to allocate stuff to, but at the same time, you still have your own identity.
Yes.
You know, you still have your own interests and things that you like, and it would suck for you to have to like sacrifice that for somebody else's financial principles in life.
No, you know? It's something that I've struggled with because when I was single, like I got the chance to just like whatever, right? Like I had no responsibilities and like that was a huge shift for me. But like I think how it happened, right? It just happened so fast, right? Because I went from single to living with my significant other within a month to married within 5 months after that.
Yeah.
To, right, like, you know, all the things, like literally hit every milestone in like less than a year, honestly. And again, like so grateful for it, right? Like, and in no way am I saying like, oh, I'm the shit. It's more just that like normally that takes people years, right? And I had to do that really quickly. So it's something I've been struggling with, like very, very candidly. It's something I've been struggling with. And I think as the girls get older and I have more time where they're just not so needy, you know, like, and I get it, you know, like it's a tough stage to have two young kids. I think as they get older, hopefully I can invest in my identity more, you know, like I think even doing this is amazing. Like it's such a really cool, like creative outlet. That's something I've always wanted to explore. So first of all, thank you guys for doing it with me. You know, I think
for sure,
being able to do it with really like close friends who I have chemistry with and like familiar with. And it's just like, I look forward to this every week. So let me just say that.
Same.
So anyway, on that topic of like having done so many things together and like just being very familiar with each other, one of the things that we were talking about is CrossFit Open workouts, right? I think the CrossFit Open is coming around again, right? Rod, I think you said you're starting to get ads for it. Sean, I think you were talking about like one of your CrossFit buddies like running his own games right now. Like,
well, they had some issues with it.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Had to postpone it or even cancel, right? Are you guys like still doing that? Like, are you guys doing it for your own? I don't even know what the word is. Ego?
Nope.
Are you just totally, you're like, oh, I'm good.
Look at our cheeks, man. Does it look like we're doing this?
My cheeks, dude. No, as far as those movements for me, it's a no-go for the movements, but you know, I do my own thing. Yeah, but you know what's funny with burpees? It's like when you think of burpees, what gives out first?
My
like when
heart.
let's say you're doing like you're doing like
My
an AMRAP.
lungs.
Sure, AMRAP 10 minutes, lungs. You get the Fran lung. What else? What else would go out?
That push-up part.
Yeah, just the
Push up.
push up. Yeah.
Sure, right. So energy, push up, lungs, right? You know what gave out for me that slowed me down? My lower abs from kicking my knees back up to jump, and I was like, why am I cramping? What the fuck? I can't even jump back up.
What? What?
Yeah, dude.
Wait, your
If-
lower abs were cramping. So like when you put your hands down on the ground.
So
you
you're
would-
flat. You're flat, right?
Yeah.
Flat on the bottom, and then you push
Oh,
up.
I
and-
see.
Then you
I
kick your
see.
legs back up.
You kick your legs back up,
You're
and I was
kinda
doing that
interesting.
so
You're
much
doing like a crunch, basically.
to pull your knees up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Jump,
I
like,
don't
I
know
can't-
what to do. Yeah. I was like, I don't know what to do. My stomach's cramping from this stupid ass movement.
It's like hip flexors and quads, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's been so long since I've done, what was it? 7-minute AMRAP burpees?
AMRAP burpees 7 minutes. I think
that what it was?
that was like 14.1 or some shit. That was my first open. Remember they
Wait,
had
is-
the rope. They would they had
Yeah,
the
yeah,
rope
yeah.
at a certain height, and you had to jump up and
It was,
touch the
was it six?
Oh,
It was
that's
like
right.
6 inches above both.
Yeah,
your,
hands,
your,
right?
your,
Yeah,
your height.
we
yeah.
had the rings that were up there. You had to
Yeah.
tap the ring, I think.
Yeah.
But that was dangerous because if the rings were moving,
Yeah.
you couldn't
No rep.
tap it.
No rep. I got 4 burpees in 7 minutes. Wait, is that when I remember, there was one year, Rod, where you all of a sudden became a cardio beast. Do you remember this, Sean?
You remember there was you were on some shit.
What happened? Yeah, was it that
Oh,
year
that-
or was it the next year?
No, I just started during that time, so that wasn't it.
You literally like showed up to the gym and you're like, I'm just gonna work harder, and then all of a sudden it's like, dude, Rod is smoking me on every single workout.
Nah, that was
Came in.
what was like one of the big nutrition things we did.
Paleo was like the first one that I think.
Oh yeah, it was
Like the competition thing. Like
I
what-
didn't do that.
Track,
I didn't
Track
do
did
that.
that Lurong challenge.
oh
Remember
yeah,
that?
I didn't do that either.
It was the deer antler
The
stuff.
deer
dude.
antler. I love that stuff. That worked so
Uh-oh.
well for me.
Was it that? I don't know, but it was something like that. And then I was just like, dude, I don't know. It's just
Lurong.
I just didn't get tired.
Is that still a thing? Is Lurong still around? Let's
I
look
think
it
it's
up.
just cocaine now.
Let's look it up. I have not even.
They ran
Thought
out of
of
deer
that.
antlers, dude.
Is that really what happened?
I don't know. Endangered game now.
Yeah, I remember we used to do like a gym wide,
Yeah.
like challenge, right? It
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
like a before and
Did-
after,
did-
right? Wasn't that?
Dude, I wore that T-shirt to my CrossFit L1, the coaching seminar,
Yeah.
and Neil Maddox was there, and he was just like, "Hey, I know that shirt," and I was like, "Yay, celebrity!"
But that's the kind of stuff I was talking about too, like in the first conversation about like just activities that bring people together, just
Mhm.
things that you have, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's a really good call out, man.
Dissipated.
Yeah, that's a really good call out.
Those kinds of things, like even when we had like groups, like meetups, like the open thing where you had to get in teams, like that was you people came in your team that were like you would never talk to, but then they end up being either really nice or you find out they're assholes or something, like mixture of it all. But at least you had the opportunity to try to at
That's
least
true.
meet somebody, otherwise they would just be passerbys.
And we would do our own version of the games
Yeah.
at the gym. That was awesome, actually.
Yeah.
That was super, super fun. And like the team ones, those were sick.
Yeah.
Those were the most fun, actually.
I think sometimes I'll click on some like gems like that'll come up, and it's probably around now when the games, everybody's posting shit and you start clicking around. And you still see that. Like I still see some gyms doing that, where it would be like the open workout competition on a Saturday.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
used to do that. That's what
I
you're
know.
talking
That
about.
was the best.
We'd all come in and like everybody would be doing that. It's like a competition for that.
That was so fun, dude. Yeah, that's
'Cause
such
that's
a
when
good
you know you're
call.
giving it your all. Like you're giving it because it's like you have to.
I remember I would show up to those things nervous.
Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah,
would-
yeah.
I
You'd
would
spend
show
all
up.
week strategizing and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or be like, hey, you gonna do that again?
Yeah. Thinking about
That was the
coming on
worst.
Saturday.
That was the worst, and you'd score worse and
Yeah,
worse. as you-
every time. Every single time. And we still did. Well, I still did it. Half the time I was probably with Gerald getting smashed somewhere.
Nah, I was a one and done.
Dude, there were so many that I tried to redo, like the deadlift. Like, man, yeah, I just remember being so sore and being like, I have to wait until the last day to like redo it so I could submit my score. Remember that? Like,
yeah.
man, wow, memories. Holy crap. Yeah, that's a really good call out though, Sean. How do you find like do gyms post that like online? You said you saw some that show like, oh, like we're doing our intra gym
Well, like my
or
boy Jordan,
inter gym.
intramural, or was that what they call it?
Yeah.
Something like that. I know my boy Jordan that lives in San Jose. He's a coach at Kindred. And so I follow
Okay.
the coach and I follow them. And so I remember last year they do that in their gym all the time, or at least from what I saw, because he's been there for like 3 years now, 4 years maybe.
Okay.
Actually,
Okay.
4 years, 5 years.
Why don't you go to a CrossFit gym, Sean?
Of my time, like I work in the Bay, so when I get back here, it's at 6, and like shit in Sacramento. When I say it's like a small town, there are no gyms that are open after 6.
Really?
It closes down here. It's weird. Like even
Wow,
specialty
interesting.
coffee shops, like they all close at like 4, and then it's like
Yeah.
they don't stay open.
Interesting.
It's like weird. There's a CrossFit gym like 2 miles from me, but they have no classes past I think 4:30.
What?
Whoa. That's
And I was gonna
wild.
go to the hell is it? The 45 thing.
Oh, F45.
F45.
But then like, cause that's the closest to it, but they don't do any barbell stuff like that. And I love those things.
Yeah.
And they close, like the last one is at 6:30. So I would be pushing it to try to get there. So the only thing that works for me is like going to 24-hour fitness. And I mean, it's fine. Cause like I said, like I work out just for health reasons, just to like
Yeah.
maintain. I don't care to compete as much. So as long as I'm in that, like, there's a certain number where I want to stay.
Sure.
As long as I'm in a
Dude.
200 club with a lot of those movements, I know I'm like above like a good percentage of people already.
Dude, the fact that you were doing those complexes at 185, those were like pretty lengthy complexes too, man. That's pretty beast. I
Well, let me read.
can tell you right now I wouldn't be able to do those.
I listened to one of those the things, and when I got to the 185, like I started off at 3, but when I got to that, I don't remember if I did 2 or 1, because it was too heavy. Like I wouldn't link together 3 when I got to my like last 2 sets where it's like I'm gonna hurt myself if I try to fight that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
usually will drop down to like 1 or 2 depending on how I'm feeling, but I won't push it.
Okay.
I know for
Okay.
sure, like the 185, and I did 205, but I know that was only 1.
Yeah.
And it's usually like deadlifts, like 1 deadlift, and then a power clean, and then a squat clean, and then I'll front squat it back up, and then usually it's a push jerk.
Let me ask you guys Rod's question. What's your workout win for the week? Rod, you
Wait,
go.
What's today?
You go.
Today's Monday.
Yeah.
Today's today's Monday. Last
talking
week,
about
I
last
guess.
week?
Well, for the last 7 days, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess for me, I think I did about like 4 or 5 days last week. We had a lot of rain here in the Bay, so it kind of skews what you could do. Plus, I was working through the storms. I would literally get off at 8, and then I'd be like, I have like 30 to 40 minutes, so I just like go ham on like benching, or whatever. Yeah, and then just call it a day. I can't
Training
run. I can't
intensity.
do anything. Yeah. Oh, the workout that I did do. Was it Annie? It was like the 50, 40, 30, 20, 10 double unders.
Yeah, and then you go back.
But I have to cut those sit-ups in half. So I'm doing 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, just because I
your
can't do
lower
that.
abs are cramping.
From all those burpees. Sore from all those burpees.
At least
That's
you have
awesome.
abs. It's not like
Dude,
your
that's,
lower ab, your one
yeah,
ab,
Yeah,
one
my
ab
one.
that's true.
is lower.
That's true.
But that's what I did.
Uh,
That substituted my running. So
That's awesome. I need to go back to those girl CrossFit workouts. It's been
dude,
forever since I've done any of them.
like trying to do double unders, you're like, my brain knows what to do. My body won't do it.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating, man. But it's just, I guess it's part of the experience.
Yeah. It'll come back. It'll come back.
Yeah. You sent a video of snatching last week, and man, I missed that. I missed that. I actually back squatted this week, and I'm taking out all the elasticity in my hole. So it's like
So it's all tempo.
Essentially, yeah, full tension at the bottom. There's no relaxed, So I can't do my squat snatches or squat cleans. I don't know, but I'm just rebuilding my knee and my quads all over again. So
It's awesome.
that's where I'm at.
That's sick. That's great. How about you, Sean?
Yep.
Shit. My win is that I actually went to the gym twice.
Nice.
It's because like usually on weeks when I'm doing those markets, I got to come home, feed the cats, and I'm right into the roasting shit like right away.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard. So that's why like this week I couldn't go as much. But yeah, what's funny is I used to hate snatches. I still do. It just my body wasn't meant to
Your
be.
shoulders, man.
Yeah, it's just, so I think I'm fixing the shoulder thing with those Y's and the W's and the angels. And that's actually helping because now like this actually opens up so much more now, but I still don't like snatching. I really don't now, especially like with the gym platforms that they have there. But what I do all the time is hella double unders and hella one arm snatches. That's what I do.
Nice.
Like the one arm snatches, it's either those or Russian kettlebell swings is what I sandwich in between my complexes all the time. Double unders, one arm snatches, and kettlebell swings. Those are like my in-betweens.
Nice.
All the time. And the double unders, like that makes me feel like that's an ego booster. That's definitely for external validation. I'll be honest.
It's a skill, dude. It's a skill.
When I'm on that shit, it's like...
Yeah.
Everyone stops and then they're like looking at, is there a tornado in here?
Yeah,
what is that?
that is pure like, look at me now. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not lifting that big ass weight, but
Yeah.
now I'll pop the handles together. I don't know why I do that. But it's just like I'll just hit them together and it gets me ready. And then it's like,
You chalk the handles.
I don't know, man. I do this weird thing, and I just like, yeah,
Everyone look at me.
yeah. I mean, I don't hit it that loud, but it's just a weird.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice.
and because what's funny is like that when I did make it to the gym, like I didn't have time to really hit weights, so I spend probably like almost a quarter of the time, if not more, stretching. So then I'm like stretching so much because it feels good. And I'm like, fuck, man, it's already late.
Yeah.
So then I'll hit the dumbbells and the jump rope, and it's just quick, and I'm out.
You know what's really helped with that, especially with like time saving when you're like in a really crunch?
Yeah.
You just don't stretch.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
I literally do not stretch anymore.
You just
I
do
just
it at
do
lighter
the
weights and you
movement.
warm up.
Exactly. That is exactly what I do. So if
Such
it's like
bad
5 rounds
advice.
for something, I will just so for example, if it's like snatching, I'll just do the bar for the first round and then I'll add weight for the second and then the third and the fourth. But it's the only way you can get through, start to finish in 20 minutes because I got to get on another call, right?
But
What do you
I
think?
feel like there's such
Good.
a big difference with activating stretching and like
Yeah.
end of the night I'm trying
Sure.
to be wiggly loose.
Right.
Right. Because that I feel like sure, you do need that.
You
shit.
mean like the ROMWOD pliability, holding it for like 4 minutes in a single position type of stretching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you can find time to watch TV or whatever, you can sit on the floor and touch your toes or whatever.
Yeah.
But the warming up and actual doing shit, I'm just like light versions of that movement.
The only time I really do the activation is for squats, like back squats, because in my mind just does not know how to turn my glutes on. It's always quads. Everything is quads. So I have to do like some glute bridges. I'll use like a band like against the post, and I'll use it to like, just pull super hard with the glute and then just activate the glute for like 10 seconds and then switch, and then I'm ready to go squat. But
have you ever tried just sticking your butt really far back through like the bottom half of the squat?
Yeah.
For some reason that activates my butt when I do that.
I do that, but then it hurts my lower back.
Oh, shoot, my bad. I guess we're all different. We all have different
the
squats,
geometry is all different to your point last week, right? No, but my win was actually that squat, like the squat snatch. Like I have not even attempted a snatch in maybe 6 months. That's probably the first time I've even touched a bar and tried to go in that position. So the fact that I can still do that, I'm very, very, very happy. Almost 40 years old, still be able to find that range. Like I'm very, very happy about that. I think my goal is to be able to train intensity with snatching and with clean and jerking, because for like efficiency and bang for your buck, like those two movements, like if you literally just don't do those two movements, right? Like do 30 reps and then call it a day. You're done. Like you'll still get the workout. You'll get, the gains.
What was the name of that?
You'll get
What was the name of that workout? 30 snatches for time.
Elizabeth? Is that Elizabeth?
What
remember.
is that?
I think it is
Isabel.
It's not Grace.
Isabel?
Isabel. It was Isabel. Yeah.
Or is Elizabeth the wall ball? Which one is Elizabeth? Is one of them.
What is Elizabeth?
Karen is the wall ball.
Oh, Karen.
Elizabeth.
What was that? 150.
Elizabeth is like 75 snatches or something.
Yeah, Elizabeth is 21 cleans, 21 ring dips, then 15 cleans, 15 ring dips, and then 9 cleans.
Not bad. Way off.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
That's a hella dips.
Dude, I've always had so much trouble with dips, and like now that I don't work on them at all, they are even worse, dude. They are so bad. I'll do like one. I'll be like, oh, I felt like a 1 rep max. And I'll go for the second one. What's that?
What about the handstands? Because that's kind of similar.
Oh no, I didn't even try handstands because my garage has like a little bit of a grade.
Yeah.
So it's like difficult. I mean, maybe it's not that hard. Maybe I'm just making it up in my head, but I've never been able to do handstands. Like I've never been able to do like handstand walks. Like I've never been able to do that.
Those are the things I know. That's why I loved it when you got there. I'm like, yeah, Gerald's gonna get stuck here. Fuck Gerald.
Yeah, both you guys.
Like Rod, I'm like with Rod. When Gerald is to the rings, that's where you know, like he's gonna kill you, and then you got to catch him on the handstands or something.
Yeah,
or running.
Running.
Running was the big one.
Running.
All right, I'm gonna catch him over here. I'm gonna kill his ass over here.
Handstand walks and handstand push-ups. So it's like,
come on, big guy.
Kryptonite.
There,
dude,
kryptonite, bro.
Your arms are so long. That range of motion.
It's so far, dude. It's so far. Remember when they made you put your hands in a box? Remember they
in a
taped
box?
Yeah.
Fuck that.
I'm like, bro, that's like a 3-foot drop I have to make every single rep. And then you got guys with like T-Rex arms, and they're like, boop, 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 boop,
well, because you remember the years before that, right? They're like doing handstands, like
totally.
You're barely going down like 4 inches.
It's like,
yeah,
dude.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like that was not meant for me, or I was not meant for that. More specifically,
that's another one of those things that in CrossFit where at the gym, that's an external validation move. Because I could still do that, and I still I do those holds. I don't know, is that an active one too? Because like that's one of my closers too. Is like I'll stand I'll do a handstand, I'll hold for 30 seconds, and then I'll do like one straight push up and I'll jump off.
Yeah.
So I'll do that. I'll try to do that 5 times, but I usually make it to like 3, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna kill myself.
What do you mean it's an active? Like, how is that an activation? Maybe I'm not
No,
understanding.
I'm asking.
What?
I don't know because I just feel like I'm
Oh,
holding and I'm activating every damn thing in
Sure.
my body.
oh, I see, I see, I see,
You're
I
under
see.
tension.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I see, I see. Yeah, I mean, I think I said this before. Like, I'm gonna join a CrossFit gym again. Like,
Right.
once I can find some time, like consistent time that I can go, like I'm gonna go do it because I
Do
miss
you
that.
think? Do you think
I'm with you, man.
it would be difficult to find one?
Uh, I mean, I think we touched on this a little bit before, but like, I would love your guys' thoughts on this. Like, I think it's for me specifically. Um, I think it's tough to shed like the expectations of what we had at our previous gym, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and not holding it to that standard where like I'm gonna make lifelong friends here and I'm gonna get super jacked and I'm gonna like
Right.
and like no, like I need to just find a gym that's gonna push me and I'm gonna be accountable and I'm gonna enjoy going and not kill myself because that's it.
Yeah. Well,
So
what would you look for in, like, let's say, class flow or programming?
oh, that's a good question. Um, what do you mean by class flow exactly?
Well, for me,
Sure.
it has to make sense. If we're doing snatches, let's just say we're doing Isabel for the workout. Does the warm up actually makes it like?
Oh, I
Does it
see.
actually activate properly?
I
Are
see.
you actually doing
So
it with
you're
the
you're
bar?
talking about quality of programming.
Is that programming or is that
Yeah.
class leading? Because programming is what you write down on the board.
I mean, yeah, okay, class leading. I mean,
I think it's both. It sound like they're
yeah,
interchangeable.
yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on the gym, right? Like, I've been to gyms that did not do any activation at all. Like, they literally put on the board. It's like you show up and you just start working out.
Right. I think that's what I'd be afraid of,
Mm.
where it's like I'd be too lazy to do.
To do it yourself.
Well, to you're right. Yeah, to do all the hard stuff. If somebody's telling me to do the hard stuff, I'll absolutely do it. I don't know if I have the discipline to actually, to Sean's point, to properly warm up the right things
Yeah.
in preparation for that movement.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think the way I would want to look at it is I just don't want to kill myself. Like I'm at a different
Oh,
phase in my
sure.
life, right?
Right.
And
Right.
I still want people to be better than me though. I don't want
Okay.
to be the best person in the class. Not that I ever was, but like,
Sure.
like
Right.
I would want to find people that I can like, oh, like, wow, he does that really well, or she does that really well. Like, I want to be able to ask her how is she thinking about cycling that? Because I've
Mhm.
never been able to do that. Or like, teach me how to handstand so that Sean doesn't smoke me on this workout.
Yeah.
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 Like,
Yeah.
so I think that's one thing. And then obviously just like having enough classes that it can fit in my schedule. So I think my bar for what an acceptable CrossFit gym is much lower now. Yeah. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I mean it's funny because like a lot of the gyms that I've been to, I mean, I was probably like the last one like at least 2 years ago. Even when I was in Colombia, I don't think I've been to like a gym that programmed or their flow was kind of like ours, which I really like. Because like I said, I adopted a lot of the same practices about doing these certain stretches. And then if I know I'm going to do something, like especially for the complexes, I do a lot of those shoulder things to wake all that up. And then I know if I'm going to be squatting in those complexes, I do like those lunges and then like the tactical frog thing and those pigeon stretches to open all that up
Yeah.
because I know that it's I need that because I'm going to be doing certain things like I guess it's conscious, but I haven't been to a gym where it's like that. They do warm ups, but it's like, okay, run 400, come back, and then like turn your neck or do this and turn your. But it's nothing
Yeah.
related to what we're. It's like you
Right.
get your blood going and that's great, but I think it's important because that's how people get hurt. You don't
Right.
open up certain things, and then if the first thing on there is like you're gonna do a 3-3-3 heavy squat clean today,
Yeah.
and you did
Yeah.
nothing to like work that
Right.
up. It's like that's how you get hurt. But to your point though, yeah, my bar is definitely lower. I just think like for me, it's like you're buying something, but it's more like I'd be buying the coaches. Like, I don't want like somebody, they need to be social and hype to me, like, because that's how I am. And no, no point, Rod, but like our coaches are all quiet. Like, and that was hard for me. You know,
Yeah.
I'm like a loud person, and I feed off that. Makes me want to be around you if you're really loud. But if like I'm sitting next to my coach and I can't really talk to you, it feels very weird, and I'm not gonna want to sit there that long. But
Yeah.
if you're super social and engaging, I'm gonna want to stay there, and I'm gonna want to be around that if I have the time. And so, I would want to see that, but I know that's like you can't find that all the time. But
Is that something you would try to flesh out, or is that something that can be, is that like a hole, that like a gap that can be covered up with having like enough like really good classmates?
yes and no, because I think it's I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. Because like when I wasn't going to like track fit as much, and I was going to Alinea in San
Alenia.
Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was going there for like 2.5 years, and the coaches were real like socially engaging people. They're real fun. But the people that were there, they were like a bunch of tech workers, and they all like gave you awkward stares, and everybody was in and out. So no, like it didn't make up as much. It was like, yeah. And I think the coaches is actually what kept us there, because they would always say hi, like, what's up, Joe? Like they would, so like at least you had that. Somebody was saying what's up, It's like, as long as you get that, it's like it becomes like a home, because people are greeting you. You feel that. So, and even like over the whole 2 years, surprisingly, we weren't even like able to make one connection in there. And that's kind of weird to me. But of course, that's just
See, that's actually my kind of the point I was touching on, is that like my bar for a CrossFit gym has dropped, in that like, yes, like the social aspect would be great. I think my expectation is more that it's like, those micro interactions that you have, which are still very important, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not looking for a best friend, I'm not looking for that. But yeah, no, I think it's an interesting topic, because like, and I want to come back to it eventually, because I am going to be looking for a gym this year.
That's a good point. That's a good talking game, man.
Yeah.
Like I think at our stage, I guess stages in life depending. I think we're on the same page with that. It's like we're not going there for like as a social activity to fill some social void.
Yeah.
Like you're going. I mean, there's part of it, but it's also just to get out, like to get out of your house for a little bit and just do something on your own that you want to do, and that's just like in this. So it's a fun thing.
Dude, for me, the coaching aspect absolutely was that. Like when it came to like the personal training and like running the group classes, it was like a huge social part of my day. It was just like, can't wait to get off work, going to the gym. I'll see the regular, 4:30 class, 5:30 class, whatever. I guess, yeah, one of the hard parts for me during like COVID was cutting that piece out, because like the workouts were always there. Right.
Yeah.
But like seeing the groups and the day to day, and yeah, I think that was like a very hard, like weird identity crisis I had to go through during that time to kind of like, I don't know, mourn the social part of the CrossFit gym. Yeah.
Say more on that, dude, because I know you're naturally probably more introverted. And for you to go into, I'm assuming that was your first coaching job. Like, have you ever coached before?
No, not at all. So yeah.
Yeah. So like, I mean,
no,
what motivated you to do that? Like to take that role, first of all, and then like, what was this like the switch where you're like, all of a sudden you're looking forward to that every day?
I don't know. I would say, when I was like considered to be one of the coaches, I thought it was like, oh, weird. I'm like way overweight. I just started doing this. I don't know, but I was like, all right, I'll do it. And I don't know, maybe it was like the nursing part of me, because I was a nursing-ish at the time. And like when like, I guess I would talk to class or people how I treated it like they were like my patients, or whatever. I was just like put on a face, put on that personality where I'm like, let's just get this out of the way, let's go. Because yeah, you're right. Naturally, I won't talk to people. I'm just like in my own bubble. People will talk to me, that's cool, and then I'll start stuff up if I'm sober. But like, yeah, it's totally the opposite hat. And I wore that social coach hat for so many years that it just became normal, right? And a piece of that I want to talk about is like I'd been doing CrossFit stuff and like coaching stuff for so long that when I would work out, I had this natural inner voice that it's what I would say to a student that was just like struggling, like or feeling tired or whatever. I would have that same self talk in my head. But around COVID time, I literally realized that it was very toxic positivity because I would be going through like struggles in life during COVID. And the inner voice would be like, no, you're good, dude. You can do this. You're good. You don't have a problem right now. You could just like keep going, suck it up. You're doing fine. And it would play automatically in my head until I realized I'm like, no, I have some shit to deal with right now. And I had to separate that coach out of my head and really like look at life at the time. You know, COVID, it was a wild time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was weird. So I feel like for me, it was like the detaching of the coaching self. I had to separate that part of me to realize it was like not part of my personality.
Wow. That's a big realization. And
it was weird. It was weird, yeah, because yeah, I would tell myself, no, we're good. Like life is good. There's no issues. There's no problems. But
okay, hold on. So yeah, no, that's super fascinating. I want to, if you're okay with it, I would love to dig in there. So, okay. First question is like, give me an example of something that's like been really difficult for you in the last couple of weeks. And then explain to me how that is different from that mindset that you just had where you're like, hey, all's good. You know, like, what does that thought process look like now? And you know what I mean? Like, how did that change?
Sure. I guess like work for the past few months has been kind of struggling. I'm taking on like a new, unusual project that's been like my biggest pain point and stressor and whatever. And I'm getting feelings of, well, let me tell a quick story.
Yeah, please.
Sixth grade, winter break, right? We had a science fair project due when we came back, and I didn't do it. I held it off. I eventually told my mom like the night before that it was like due. And I remember it was the first time in my life I felt this like crushing pressure of like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, who's going to do? Am I going to fail this, class? And just that pressure. So holidays and like, that Sunday blues, that feeling of, it's always
Sunday
weighed heavy
scaries.
on me. Yeah. Even if I don't have anything, there's always like this weird pressure behind my ear. I've been feeling a lot of that lately because of this project that I'm doing. And I guess the difference is now I'm more mapping it out. I'm mapping out what I have to do, when do I do it by, and can I do it? I guess that's the realistic thing. Can I do it? Because if I can't do it, then I need to ask for help. And I've been very vocal with my supervisors if something's not a realistic goal. Meanwhile, in the previous, it's like, no, we can do that. Like, we'll do whatever it takes to do it. That was their thing. Whatever it takes, right? We'll figure it out, and then but not at the same time, not writing a game plan or a blueprint of how we're gonna get there. So I guess now I'm maybe more practical. I don't know if that's the right word. Of actually like, how do we get from point A to point B?
You're more strategic about it.
I'm sure a lot of that has to do with my wife, because I'm a big like dreamer, right? Oh, we'll get that house, right? How are we gonna? I don't know. We'll just get it. I'll just save up. I'll just work harder. And that was like my game plan,
Yeah.
right? There was no like, well, like what you guys were talking about.
Yeah.
Set aside this money, actually do that. There was none of that.
And then she drop shipped a fat Excel sheet into your life. And you were
Yeah.
like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
God
Exactly
damn.
that. Exactly that.
Oh, fuck! I need
Uh,
a drink.
Yeah.
Thirsty.
That's
Just like
awesome.
sweating the bullets during
Yeah.
the interrogation of like my finances and
When
shit.
the hell did you start that sheet?
Dude, that's amazing. Okay. First of all, thank you for sharing that because I have a very similar, I'd say like feeling as you. And I don't know if it, like, we'll have to dig into this some other time because like we could probably talk about this for hours, but like I've had something similar in my life where it's like, yeah, we'll get there. And to your point, it's not really mapping out the finer details about like, if this, then that. And if this goes wrong, then we do this. And if that goes wrong, then we do that. Right. And then also like, what does it take to do those things? Like, like how much time, how much energy, how much money does it take to do all of those things? And actually like really just listing it out. I was not like that. I am not.
Yeah.
The story that I tell myself about myself is that I am not a detail-oriented person. I will do 80% of it to keep the thing moving forward. That's how I think about stuff.
Okay.
But what I've learned is that to really reach, like certain goals, you got to be super clear. You got to be very defined. You have to have a plan and then a backup plan and then a backup plan to that backup plan. And that's like one way of going about life, right? And I think for me, that's been a hard shift. That's been difficult, right? Like that is because it takes a lot of effort, right? I think
Sure. Yeah.
naturally for me, I will lean into the things that I do well, and then I do want to grow in these other arenas, but like it's painful, right? Like for someone to like put a mirror up to your face and be like, hey, like you're actually not good at these things that you thought you're so good at, damn, like actually you're right. Like I have a lot of room to improve there. And the reason I say those things is that mirror was my wife. My wife is like very good at, she's more like a spotlight. She is literally a spotlight with a magnifying glass and can be like, this is where you're really good and this is where you can improve. And for someone like me who loves to grow, like, and loves to learn, like, I'm so grateful every single day that I get that, and I get the feedback, I get the, and it's honest feedback too, right? It's sometimes it's so painful. Like we literally just went through the shit this last week, and like for her, she is, by the way, I need to tread carefully here because she is like one of two people who's actually listening to this thing. So
I'm trying to send it to friends,
yeah.
so we'll bring that number up.
She's she can have a temper, and it's about certain things. It's not everything. And I am one of those people who I would say I don't have a temper. Like I'd say I very ever rarely get mad. So when she gets mad about certain things, like let's just keep using finances as the example for this conversation. It triggers me. And I'm like, what? Why did we just go nuclear over this one little thing? When it could have just been like a very quick conversation or like, like whatever. Right. And, the reason I bring that up is it is a constant thing that I'm having to work through because I realize that in a relationship, especially a marriage, right? Like I think where for me anyway, like a marriage is very like, I just, everyone is different, like some people don't need a marriage. Some people do, whatever, like whatever your belief is on that. I don't care. It's just for me personally, like having my life partner have such extreme reactions to things makes me feel like I have failed. Very, like, it makes me feel like I have done something wrong, and I don't know what that is. Like, I'm gonna have to keep digging into this at some point. Like, I'm always, and I've always been this way, and it's not just like with my marriage, but it's like I think heightened because it's like the mother of my children, you know. Um, I've always just defaulted to it's my fault, and so if you ask me something like, hey, like, what's something difficult that you've been going through the last like few weeks? This is something I've struggled with for my whole life, actually. And this might be like how I was parented, maybe, like maybe the idea that, especially as Asians, like there's a lot of shame, right? In our culture, Filipinos especially, right? Like Catholicism in general is just built around shame. And and my point with bringing that up is like it's something that I'm every day like having to think about. To your point, Rod, what's that coaching voice in my head that's like not actually me, but it's like it was written down in me from a very young age, and I'm still listening to it. And I need to learn how to call it out, but then realize that that is not actually me. So
The hard part with that is you're the only one that can hear it.
yeah.
So there's no like, hey, did you hear what that guy said? Because it's just
And
you.
that's actually why I was asking you that question about like how did you realize that toxic positivity voice was there, and how did you realize that you could actually break away from that?
There was a lot of therapy during that time too, man. So there was a lot of having to break down and actually spill my guts, to my wife, to therapists, to friends and stuff. So it was a long, it was essentially was a long time of dealing with something. And at the same time, I stepped out of the role of coaching. So it wasn't my day to day to cheer somebody up. It wasn't my job to keep motivating the people anymore. And like, you got this, that was no longer my vocabulary. So it's like my vocabulary became like, damn, the fuck do I do? There's so many paths in my, fork in the road right now. What's happening? So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that was it for me. The fact that I stopped saying that shit out loud and actually just thought more about me versus the role of coaching. And there was a brief stint when Track actually opened the gym before he had to like close down.
Yeah.
And COVID, everybody was scared, masks and stuff, but there was a part of me that was like kind of afraid to step back into that gym. I don't know if it definitely wasn't COVID itself. It was like, fuck COVID, but it was just like, I don't know if it was like shame. I don't know if it was like, I didn't feel like I was like the athlete that could perform where I used to, or if it was like, I was afraid to step into that environment again where I was so positive, I mean, it sounds so negative, such a negative Nancy. But
No, I mean,
yeah, during that time,
real.
it was like, unfortunately, I couldn't be there towards the end of, Track's last classes where he had to close. But, I was just dealing with me at the time. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough, man. Sean, you want to jump in here? You have something you want to add, or?
No, I was just listening. I didn't
Yeah.
know you were going. That just sounds like
I brought the mood down, guys.
No,
Sorry.
you're being
that's real,
vulnerable and sharing something
Yeah.
that's like personal to you. And think like I appreciate you being open and being vulnerable like that. And I'm sure like, people were probably going through that same thing and probably never have been able to like share it. So maybe somebody gets inspired to like speak freely about their little journey during that time. Fortunately, I didn't feel or go through much of that, but like I'm sure you're not the only one that has went through something like that. And so, yeah, being vulnerable and being able to do that, man, I'm like, I got nothing to say with that. Like, I don't want to, and don't feel bad about it. So, yeah, I'm just listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I appreciate
Thanks.
you sharing
Yeah.
that, Rod.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I touched on a little bit, it was just like around culture, right? I think how we were brought up is obviously very specific to us. Like, yeah, we're all Filipino, but like we had very different upbringings. But I still think we all identify as Filipino Americans, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Don't let me speak for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing, Sean, that you brought up, and love for you to just open it up here, is around cultural appropriation. What were your thoughts on that, man? I know you wanted to talk about this, so let's just jump right in,
A
bro.
little backstory why that gets me is yes, I've always identified as a Filipino American, but growing up, and I think both of you may have known it at some point, like I didn't grow up with a lot of Filipino friends. Like they weren't close to me, like how you guys have become over the years. And so I didn't identify as much with Filipino community outside of like food and parties. That was the identity. So I always knew that when I'm around that, I feel that culture. I feel that, but I couldn't stay there long. Like I couldn't, I'd get annoyed just because I wasn't raised like that. And so I think maybe like 3-4 years ago, or actually the first time I went to the Philippines in 2018, I kind of got a little culture shock and felt a little weird because I went to my family's house and there were like cousins and people that I met that they knew me because my aunt would bring pictures and stuff. And my grandpa's pictures were still in the house, like the family house. There's like a school named after him. Like, so there are all these things that were hitting me that kind of made me want to kind of try to figure out a way into the Filipino part of me. But I mean, that didn't come to fruition as much, but I was on this little trip of just trying to understand why it's not as popular, especially when I was in San Francisco. Like, I got down to the numbers. Like San Francisco currently still has about almost 1 million people population wise. 30% of them are Filipinos. That's almost 300,000 plus people. But yet you go and ask 50, 100 people, non-Filipino people, have you ever celebrated a birthday party at a Filipino restaurant? None of them will say yes. How is that possible when there's 300,000 plus of them? And in Daly City, where the whole damn city is like 40% Filipino, but yet like any like non-Filipino person has never celebrated a birthday party at a Filipino restaurant. They've been to every other restaurant you can think of. Thai, Chinese, American, Japanese, Peruvian. You go down the list, but Filipino is not there. And so I just became very hyper aware of seeing little Filipino things all over the place. And the big trendy one right now is like ube. Like it goes through cycles. I feel like it's annual. And I think Trader Joe's now has their annual Trader Joe's, what is it, pancake mix or ube thing? It's seasonal now. Like 2 years ago, it was hot. Like ube was everything.
Yep.
But then you ask people what ube is, it's the same thing. It's like food in San Francisco. Do you know where that came from? Like, do you know what the word ube? Because it's not just a toro. Like it's a kind of ube is grown in the Philippines. Like it's from there, literally. But that's nowhere on the packaging.
Yep.
But people are monetizing, capitalizing on that shit so much everywhere. Like today, the thing. Sorry, one last little tip. Is because I was at like our Trader Joe's here in Sacramento, and I found the ube mochi, and this shit was good. Like I was like, oh, tastes good. But yeah, that's what kind of triggered that thought. Is just like, but I don't know. I don't know what the textbook definition of cultural appropriation. I think it's more of like you're taking somebody else's cultural thing and then claiming it as your own. So I wouldn't say it's true cultural appropriation. I think it's something, because you could say it with a lot of different things, right? I don't think any certain, like the American culture is taking it and like claiming it's theirs. They're just not educating. Like it's such a popular thing. People should know where it comes from. Yep. It's like Japanese crackers or Korean this, it's like Filipino ube flavor. That's what it
Totally.
should say, I think.
I agree with you on that. Yeah. I think the distinction you just made is correct, where it's like, I don't know that it's necessarily cultural appropriation. I
Right.
think it's that they're not identifying it, that it's like, it's a Filipino thing,
Yeah.
right? And maybe it's not sexy, maybe it doesn't sell, right? Like
Yeah.
slapping something on there that says Japanese, all of a sudden you have this other, right? You just assume it's a certain quality or, whatever. It has a certain element to it. But maybe putting Filipino on that doesn't have that same effect. But the thing I wanted to ask you about, and obviously, Rod, feel free to jump in here too. Like, where do you think that miss is, that like there really is not that many Filipino restaurants? Like, what is that?
Oh, I know that one.
Ah, yes, please. I've always been curious. Why is that?
So, this is just my own making shit up, right?
I was ready to go. Like, I gotta hear this.
So our food normally is stewed dishes, right? If it's not fried shit, it's like stewed shit, right? Dinuguan, sinigang, kare-kare, all sorts of shit. And you have to make that shit for a while, right? So what happens is you have, let's just make up a number, 7 different entrees, right? Sorry. And then, you come, you point, and they scoop it and whatever. That business model is so hard because you're putting so much time and money into these stews, and it's literally just sitting there all day. And if you don't have the people coming in to actually do that, you're losing hell of money, right? That's why when you talk about the fried foods, such as like all the silogs, all the breakfast foods are really popular, right?
Yep.
Spam, longanisa, tocino with eggs over. That's such an easy formula.
Yep.
You should be able to whip that out really fast. But you're paying $16 to $17 for you're just like, damn, I could have mangled this dish at home and it wouldn't have costed me $17. It's the cost of operating. I feel like it's struggling. There's like Jollibee is so successful because they have spaghetti and fried chicken, right? And they make 1,000 pounds of that every day, and that's exactly what people know, and that's what they buy.
Yes.
Boom. But when it's like sit down style, it's so hard. So fucking hard, dude. And it's like, what
so
works?
You think
What
it's
do
the
you guys
economics that make it very difficult?
Yeah. Yes.
But I feel like there's people smart enough to shortcut this, right? Like, you can make like, I don't know, bistec, right? And just marinate it and then just leave it until you're ready to eat it, right? Until you're ready to, like, someone orders it. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Yeah.
And you can make your whole business model around 1 or 2 core dishes that are very quick cooking.
That's true. But that also takes, a lot of like, you have to have your foot in the door already, right? Like, there's a few of them in Santa Clara. What are they called?
I don't even know what theirs are. There's Filipino restaurants in Santa Clara?
Yeah, there's the something bistro, but essentially they became known. Huh?
There's one in
Yeah, there's one in Campbell. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But they're known for their silogs. They like
which is
their breakfast. Right.
Yeah.
And then they serve alcohol now. You order very expensive lumpia too. But it's like it's a lot of money to do that.
I get that.
Here's another thing. Because my wife, Vietnamese, me, Filipino, our palates are so different. She likes fresh, like vegetables, like, like spring rolls, just like cold, whatever. And then our foods are very stewed, heavy, fried. So it's like a very black and white comparison. Like I could eat that shit all the time, but she has to take like small doses of it, and then she's good. So I think that's my side. I don't know. I went off a tangent. Sorry.
No, I think that's fair. I have thought that same thing. Like, if you think about pancit, like how long it takes to prepare all the different ingredients to put together the pancit and then actually like cook it properly. Like, I get that. It's very labor intensive, but I still like the reason I'm digging in here is like, I feel like I've heard what you just said, Rod, like multiple times from multiple people, and I feel like someone is making an excuse to not do the restaurant properly. And I don't know why that is.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why that is. What do you
I
think,
have
Sean?
the answer.
Of course you do.
I have
Yeah.
the answer.
Of course you do.
You're
Here,
not
let's hear it.
going to argue with me either. There is no
Let's hear
argument.
it.
The first part has to do with Filipino culture in general. That's like bar none. In Filipino culture, our parents, they're so worried about how their kids look and present to the world. So when you grow up, like a lot of Filipino families tell their kids, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. So they're scared to step out of their box and their bubble. Like most Filipino people, of course, except the ones that are like makers and producers. Like there's a small minority of people that are like, that's why we're not big actors or sport, because we're scared to step out. I mean, I think it's common amongst like Asian people in general, where we definitely are told we're prideful. You don't like show shame to your family, so you're scared to step out. And so what you said
Always
about
saving face.
yeah, and so like in our foods, they are conscious of that because it does look different. Like it does look stewy. It does take long, but it's not that. They're just embarrassed about what people are going to say when they see it because they're not used to doing it. But no, like everybody's scared to put it out there. There's a couple places that do it, like Renee Rose is one I always go to, and that's in Sunnyvale off of Fair Oaks, and that's a small closet. But their stuff is so good. But you talk to them like, you want to try? Like they're just people that go in there. It's like people that already know. But the point being though is like, I think they don't like just people. If they start a restaurant, they either are already catering, like they're already doing something. But in general, I just think like it's not like the business owners, they don't want to do that. Like they don't want to. They're like they're shameful of it, of the food. Like they don't want to put it out there because it's like you said, it's an excuse. Like, oh, it takes too long. And like pancit, bro, I knocked pancit out in 13 minutes. Next to like cooking shrimp Alfredo, that's like my 12-minute meal. Like pancit, easy. Dude, it's so easy. And I use like Korean japchae noodles now just because it tastes better.
Yeah. Glass noodles.
Yeah. You buy the shredded carrots, dude. You buy like, they're already cut up. And if you're really lazy, you could buy onions already cut up. So easy. Chicken broth. You just get a rotisserie chicken already cooked and just smash it all together. Quick. Dude,
Can I add?
quick.
Yeah.
I just,
Can I?
yeah, go ahead. My point though is that I just think that, and one of the things that I would tell, like when I was on this little high, is that we haven't, like, Filipino culture, they don't know how to make shit cool. Nobody stepped out of the box. They're starting to do it now. Like my brother's in that whole scene, and every time I talk this shit with him, he always like, what you talking about? Look at this. But I'm like, that's one out of a few. Like Filipino foods are popping up now.
Yeah.
But there's one like big one in San Francisco. Like I was out there, and it's not even Filipino food. It's like fried stuff.
So about like Max's?
No. That's one in Daly City. It's called Abaca.
Abaca.
It's by the Pier 39. It's in a hotel.
You guys should check out Avenida is it San Mateo, I think? It's been a minute since I've been there, but it is like fire. Their crispy pata is insane.
Would you have a birthday party there?
I've never, actually I have. I mean, but it was just me and my roommate.
Oh, okay.
Like
one of those birthdays, like, hey, come out! I'm celebrating my 40th birthday.
Well, it was like COVID. Like no one was doing birthday parties. So
that's what I'm talking. It's like that kind of place.
Yeah.
My go-to one here in Newark, it's called Isla, and they do have birthday specials. So when it's your birthday, you get like discount and shit. So they do encourage people to go out. Here's
you're gonna say something.
Yeah, here's another interesting thing. I saw a few documentaries about this too, and I could kind of speak to when I went to the Philippines 2 years ago. Jen complained that we barely ate Filipino food when we were in the Philippines. And the weird thing is she's absolutely right, because all the touristy places we went, there's literally everything else. Like, I was ordering Filipino food at the hotel we were at, right? Because I was like, hell yeah, give me Filipino food. But you go to like El Nido in Palawan, you go down the strip and there's like tacos and fucking pizza and American barbecue and spaghetti, this and that. It's like literally everything else but traditional Filipino dishes, right? I did see it in a documentary where, or whatever, where they say these places we go, there's tourism there too. Local tour, like Filipinos travel to those places, and it's like, why would they want to eat those things when they can eat that at home? They want to feel like they're traveling to whatever, blah, blah, blah. And that I feel like that might speak to where it's like, my mom makes the best dinuguan. Why would I eat somebody else's dinuguan when I know my mom makes it the best? And I feel like the first and maybe second generation Filipinos here still might feel like that, right? Like, I know my mom's cooking. I love my mom's spaghetti, right? And like, I'll always compare stuff to my mom's spaghetti. But it's like, now I don't cook spaghetti. Haven't tried. I have no desire to. So what do? Like, I'll crave spaghetti, right? And my mom's not making that shit all the time. So I'll go to Jollibee. It's like the closest, like, thick, sweet sugar spaghetti, But I feel like home cooking is such a strong staple of our culture that, why would you pay $20 for that when I could have? We have that at home. You know that meme? We have that at home.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Do you guys agree with that?
That's such a good and interesting point because, like, but I don't know. I feel like other cultures have that same mentality too, right? It's like, like, oh, my mom, yeah, like, pick your flavor, right? Like, of ethnicity. Like, I'm sure they all say, oh, my mom or my aunt makes the best XYZ.
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't see why that is an inhibitor of creating and showing it to the world that, like, hey, like, Filipino food is actually fucking amazing. Like, and I have heard, like, a lot of people talk shit about it because it's like, oh, everything is brown, everything is fried, and it's like they use it, like, they use these, like, broad strokes descriptors of Filipino food. It's like, well, it's because you haven't eaten the good shit, or like you are going into it with a closed mind. You know what I mean? And that yeah, go.
Here's another piece, man. You're just having me talking about Philippine cultures and shit.
Great.
There's so much emphasis on being an OFW. Do you guys know what that is?
What's that?
What is that?
It's an overseas foreign worker. So people go to school in the Philippines. They're raised to go be a nurse.
Yeah.
Go be a nurse in America. Go be a nurse in Europe or whatever. There's so much emphasis on education and stuff that you go out there to make money. Whereas, like, the business aspect, I don't know if it's that strong in our culture too.
That's fair.
I'm gonna start up a business, and like Chinese restaurants, right? They grow up like, oh, it's been in our family for decades.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's in our blood. Like, we what do Filipino, nurses, I don't know, engineers
they leave
or whatever,
and they make money and they send it back home.
Yeah. Is there a big emphasis on, like, starting businesses? Because that's not a very strong.
No, that's a very good point. Yeah, that's a very good point. Like, I think, whatever reason that, like, being enterprising is, like, not part of our culture. It's more like, get the degree, right?
Sure,
like,
right,
or whatever, right? Like, pick your generic Filipino. I'm a nurse. No offense, Rod. Like, and I mean, it's true though, right? And like, I don't know, but I think it has always bothered me from such a young age that, like, there aren't any good, like, Filipino places that people can point to. I feel like, Sean, like, as you mentioned, it's becoming more normal now, but even here where, there are a ton of, like, Filipinos, like, there just aren't that many Filipino restaurants, period. And maybe it is, to your point, like, a little bit of, okay, let me back up. One thing that I have noticed about Filipinos, and speaking from my own personal experience, is that Filipinos were like very much indoctrinated with Western culture, right? Like they were fed USA, USA, fucking everything, right? And like amazing in so many ways, right? But at the same time, I think one of the side effects or the byproducts of that is you as a Filipino, I'll just speak for myself, maybe not ashamed of it, like wanting to shed it, but more so that, oh, I want to be as American as possible. So much so that I forgot how to speak Tagalog. It was my first language. And I feel like there are a lot of Filipinos in that same situation, right? They no longer speak the native tongue for XYZ reason. But maybe that's part of the reason that the follow through for 100% Filipino all-in restaurant, maybe it fizzles because there's something ingrained in there from that. I don't know. I'm kind of just spitballing here.
The other thing, like you hit on some of the points, and I think it still goes down to like the culture, is like if you talk to like I've met some Filipino restaurant the owners, you talk to them, like Filipinos they not only care about like their image, they're also prideful to a fault. Where like they're like, you know, if you tell them about you criticize them, they don't take criticism well. Like a lot of Filipinos don't handle that well.
True.
So when you talk about their food, they're gonna stick, this looks like shit. I don't care. You can go somewhere else and eat. Like that's the attitude. And they're only gonna cater because if people like you, like us three, we're gonna go there. Like we're used to seeing that. So we're gonna feed that. So what does it tell the restaurateurs? It's good. I don't care what they think. They don't care about the bigger picture of it all, because as long as they're making money, it's not their aim. And that's where it says, like the young culture, like if we were to say start a restaurant, because we come from a different generation, like I have a whole fucking thing on my phone about this, like just a plan to make this shit cool. That's what's wrong with it. It's like the old people that are starting the restaurants are very cultural Filipinos. They're not part of our generation. They don't understand that if you want this to reach masses, it needs to present as such. You can't present it the way it looks, like a big mashy stew, because it's foreign. You don't know what it is. You're not just going to like, you know, there's some adventurous people, but it just doesn't look cool to people. And the people that start and you're right, we're all nurses and shit. We're all hospitality. So that risk is scary to a lot of people.
Well, how do you argue? Because like Indian food, for instance, because how you just described the food can be comparable to Indian food.
Yeah,
very stewy, very mashy.
Yeah,
of how you eat it, right? And some of it's even like kamayan, right? The way they eat it. We here in the Bay, we have so much like Indian population, and there's like Indian restaurants everywhere.
Yeah.
What's the difference then?
Because that Indian. Sorry, I didn't know if you were done. Like that's
No. Go ahead.
That Indian culture and just Indians in general have been infused outside of their country for centuries. So their food has migrated with the beginning of civilization in the Western world, period. That makes that they were trading with England already for thousands of years. So their flavors were already moving. So wherever the English went, so did that Indian food, like IPAs, for example. That's like a pale ale for the Indians. Like that's it. It migrated for thousands of years. The Filipino food has started like World War II when we were over there. But even then, like Gerald said, they were, instead of like us like transferring our cultural food over to the American soldiers, they were transferring meatloaf and Spam over to us. Like, you know, like all that stuff was going the opposite way. We weren't shifting like our cultural stuff onto them. They were pushing that. And I don't think it was even intentional. It's just, it was such an influx of like newness, novelty to the country. So like,
no, you're right. We have such few, well, we're an island.
Yeah.
There is no, we share the border with this, you know, you're right. Like there's Indo-Chinese. So I get it.
Yeah. And that's, of course, like that's why, you know, I think but anyway, that was my understanding of like, to your point about like, because I brought Indian food up too. Like, you look at it, if you don't know what it is, like I barely started eating Indian food within the last like 7 years. I still don't eat it that much because it's unfamiliar to me.
Sure. Yeah.
But for people that have had that palate for a long time, they eat it. And then I asked the same question, like, how is that able to sustain like for all this? And then that's what I realized. It's just they have been like Indians have been part of just civilization and cross centuries forever. That's my understanding of it. But I still think like what you guys are all saying is that we're all saying is Filipino food is not cool. And why is that the case? Did you know? Here's another fact for you guys, by the way. I don't know if you knew this, but if you ask people, like forget the people that say Filipinos are Pacific Islanders, because we're not. So if you're listening to this and you think you're not, you're an Asian. You're Asian.
Asian.
Yes.
But it's a confusing thing when you're in school and you're checking a box.
Hey.
They don't explain that to kids.
Yeah. But my point with that, though, is Filipinos in California, it's the highest Asian population in all of California. People don't even know that. We'd be the last culture that you would think. There's about 1.15 million Filipinos in all of California. Highest population in the Bay Area, by the way.
Dude, you know what's kind of
fact right now.
You know what's kind of wild is for my job sometimes I have to drive to middle of nowhere, rural areas. Where was I? I think I was in Salinas.
Yeah.
And then there was like Bataan.
Yeah.
What the fuck? That's my hometown.
Yeah.
What the hell? And yeah, I Googled it, and there's a lot of Filipinos in that.
You know what happened over there in the Central Valley?
I actually looked into it.
Yeah.
It was Larry. There was a civil rights worker movement, right?
There was it was like a massacre down there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because we were farm workers out there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a damn, like they were comparing it to like the hell's that thing in Oklahoma, the Tulsa, Oklahoma, where they had that
Tulsa.
They were calling it the rat.
Yeah.
It's like similar to that, but in California with the farm workers, because the Irish, and they were scared that we were taking all their jobs, and they went in there and like trying to get rid of them all, like all the Filipinos, right. And that's why they have those memorials all out in there.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't. Anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's kind of cool to learn that about our little, California.
I just think again, man, it's just we're too quiet, we're too scared. Like I open my loud ass mouth and everybody makes fun of me, but everybody's thinking the same shit. You know what I mean? It's like you're thinking the same shit, but we're too damn embarrassed about what people are gonna think about us that we don't open our mouths. It's like I think if people boycotted for this ube shit as much as they boycott for other shit, it'll make such a big difference. If they put I hope the world is listening to this. If you put Filipino ube on all your shit, I guarantee you Filipino restaurants will just boom. Because they're gonna hunt for it. I want some true Filipino ube. And there's like Filipino bakeries in Daly City. They make
there's hella bakeries.
They're
dude.
fucking good. They're
we
soft and just sticky, just good. Like they do a lot of those fucking things. I remember this bakery I'd go to all the time. I'd go there. If you call past one, they're all gone. They're like fresh ube pastillas, and they're like funky. But anyway, so
good. Hey, a little bit of homework. If you guys get a chance, you brought up a point, Sean. Look up Larry Itliong.
How do you spell it?
It's kind of like our Itliong. Probably the closest thing we have to a Cesar Chavez.
Got this book given to me when I was in Delta College because I was a fucking event coordinator for this Filipino and Friends Club at this this college. And Fred Cordova, he's like a big Filipino activist. He was actually from Stockton. This was his book. And I got this thing. Where is it? And it has all the history, but they wrote a letter in here to me somewhere in here. And I was like, when I was going on this little trip, this was like the last 3 years. I don't know if I talked to you about that, Gerald.
No.
And I was just tripping out on the Filipino thing.
No.
And I almost forgot I was part of the Filipino and Friends Club. And then when I was like digging through stuff, look at this.
Is that TFFC?
To me. Look what year that is. Can you see it?
1996.
I was in 6th grade, bro. I was having anxiety.
Yeah, dude. I was just And this was like, there was so many Filipinos in there. I felt so out of place. I didn't even know how to talk. Like, it was just weird. But when I was going on this journey, like this was like 3 years ago, I remember I was like, damn, I think I have that book. So I like to say like things like this, like, it's like a special little trinket. So I pulled it out. And I was like, damn. And it has like all the history of Filipinos. That's how important they are, because they stretch from like Central Valley, because Stockton is part of Central Valley. So that's why like those farm workers moved all the way up there from like Fresno, Bakersfield. And then Stockton is like when you made it out of the farmlands. And now you're like, Stockton is like, you're there now.
Does Stockton have a large Filipino community?
Yeah. There's like a little Philippines. There's like a bunch of movies that were filmed there back in the day. Like action
like the 70s, like Filipino flicks?
No, like some English ones.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's a trip, man.
Okay.
And one year, like, damn, was it COVID? So I was having a conversation with my brother. He came to our condo. And he's like, hey, what you doing? I said, Chums, I'm going to come over. I just rolled a bunch of lumpias. So he came over to the house. And I was like, these things are hella good. He's telling me what he did with them. And I was going off about that. I was like, Filipino food isn't cool. Why isn't that? He's like, Jason, how many of these things you got at home? He made a bunch. Guess what we did? I said, hey, this Sunday, roll 100 of those. We're going to set up a cart right in front of the parking lot. We're going to sell these fucking things. We rolled almost 300 lumpias. I set up my REI camp table, Gerald. I don't know if you remembered it.
Yeah.
We were fucking selling lumpias in front of Chase Bank on the sidewalk. It was actually, I think it was the Sunday, it was the playoffs or something. And the Niners were playing at Levi Stadium. It was like the day before. I have pictures, dude. I'll show you. We fucking rolled lumpias. I made lumpia signs. My brother was frying them, and I was talking to people. This very thing. I was telling them that. They're like, what are you doing? You have a shop? You have a business? Like, no, I was just trying to tell people about Filipino food, because nobody knows about it. It's not cool. The only time you know about food is if you go to a birthday party, you're related to somebody, and then it stops there. So we're just trying to see how much people know. I swear to God, dude, we sold like 250 lumpias.
Damn.
Nice.
We sold it was crazy. And it was just for fun. Oh man, I got to
Would you ever want to go into that? Like,
it is something I thought about. Dude,
yeah. Why you're like passionate enough about it, and like,
yeah, you have coffee in the front and lumpia
exactly.
in the back.
Dude, I had a name. It's like, it's definitely something that's easy. And to your point about the food taking long, it doesn't take long. They have Instapots, dude. I cook like,
the frying.
You know what I'm saying? You didn't say, Rod, is you didn't say afritada. That's probably like the shit. You guys don't know what that is?
Oh yeah.
Next to beefsteak, afritada. Oh,
wait, what is that?
That's like the red sauce. It's like bell peppers and carrots.
Is it beef?
Chicken. Usually
beef.
Okay.
You can do beef.
Yeah, it's usually chicken though. But
I think changing the meat changes the name, right?
You have caldereta, afritada, and menudo. They all look the same.
Right.
They're all tomato based, but there's like little subtle differences in the flavor.
Right.
But they all look the same. All three.
Like you guys know what lugao is?
That's a soup. It's a pork soup, like cabbage or something there. Or I think
No. So
nilaga is the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's nilaga.
Yeah.
What's with the meat? But anyway, when you take the meat out, it's called lugao. It's like the porridge. The rice porridge.
Yeah, it's the porridge. Yep.
No, the porridge is that's fucking. There's a different
porridge with like the egg and like the hard-boiled egg and like the garlic, right? Like,
but when you put chicken or something, it's called like arroz caldo.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Right.
Arroz caldo.
Yeah. Right. So the meat literally will change the name of the dish, even if it's the same exact thing.
Yeah, that's a good call.
That.
Yeah, that's a good call.
I know arroz caldo is what I know it as.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I made that for the first time for my family because everyone was down and out with COVID. So I was like, I need to do something. I need to help I need to help my family.
Nice. That's a good
one. So I made that. Turned out okay. Like definitely to your point, Rod, not as good as like mom's cooking, but it wasn't bad. I mean, they don't know any different. They don't know any better.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
That's like,
Put some salt in that.
yeah, that's that. Like when you talk about people, like if you're Asian, I'm like Southeast Asians all like use fish sauce. Almost all Asians have a staple noodle dish. Like that's like a standard. And then I feel like most Asians has like a standard soup. Like that's like a standard across like a lot of Asians. And it's just Southeast
What would
Asian
the
fish
standard soup for Filipinos be?
sinigang.
Would it be sinigang?
Nah, I don't know, man. You think so?
Dude, yeah, oh yeah, dude, that's the
But it's not a soup. You can't eat it by itself. It goes with like rice.
Yeah, you got to put on rice. I
in the
guess it's still a
Filipino like
soup.
restaurant, they give it to you as a side. Sabaw, like gusto mo sabaw.
Right. Or
Side
sabaw.
dish, like it comes
I
with a
guess
side
it's
dish.
so I had this argument. Well, it's not an argument, but like when I met my wife, and she was just like introducing me to like pho and all this stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm like, it's not really a meal to me. She's like, why? I don't get it. I'm like, I don't know. Soups are like appetizers or whatever. It's just like it's not a main dish.
Yeah.
You know, now I get it. It's a main dish, right?
Yeah.
But like to your point, like you said, like ramen, like Vietnamese have like 1,000 different versions of soup, but in my head it's like a bowl with like, you know, obviously a base and stuff, but it's like self-serving. You don't add it over rice. Because all of our food you could do that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Well, have you guys had papaitan?
What is that? Yep.
Goat soup, but it's like it's bitter because of the bile. Have you had that?
Well, the name says it's like soury or but
it
no,
is
I haven't had that.
hella good. It is
Yeah?
the most amazing, especially like camping, right? When you're like it's hella cold, like you're around a campfire, and maybe this is a very specific thing, just because like this is what my family likes to do. Like we love to go camping together, and all food tastes better outside. So like my cousin will make a huge pot of it, like like 5-gallon pot, and he'll like it's already done, and we just throw it on top of the grill. So it's like 2 a.m. in the morning. We're all drunk as fuck, and he pulls this thing out, and it is like you don't need rice. You literally just eat it straight, and it is like it feeds your soul. It is like that kind of food. It is that kind of food. And it's so specific because of the bitterness. It's because of the bile. It's like, I don't know. Like, make that cool. Make that dish cool. Fuck.
I never liked the goat though.
Really? You're not a goat guy?
Dude, my dad's like that
goat.
too.
But no, I mean the food thing, dude, it's crazy, man. It's like I had this like I was even talking to my brother about this like big thing where like how do we make it cool? Well, it's like everything is about an experience where what if we did like a whole event where you have this immersion into Filipino culture? It's like almost like a 3D, like a Van Gogh thing where you go in and you see a little bit about Filipino culture, but you see more of the foods and they're cooking it, right? And then you transition, you walk through that, you transition, then you have like, you taste some drinks. There's like this is where my brother came in. I was like, you'll curate cocktails based on what they saw. So the flavors they saw, you'll curate that. So you're already planting like calamansi. You're seeing calamansi trees. They talk about it. Now you're going to try a calamansi cocktail that's going to tell you what that is.
Tight.
You're going to see like ube and how that's a staple. Now you're going to have this ube daiquiri that's outside that's going to tie it in. And then you're going to get like a little sample of a ube treat and how you would taste it. And then your dinner's at 7:30. And now you're going to get a 4-course meal about all the shit that we just planted with all the visual imagery and shit you just saw.
Nice.
Now you're about to taste it.
Dude, why don't you do that?
You see what I'm saying? It's like there's a
you
whole
should.
sensory experience with like the sound, the tinikling, the flavors you see. Because like calamansi is a thing. Ube is a thing. Halo's a thing. Now you're going to have a dessert. Like you're going to taste this shit after you just saw it all.
But I would request that there's like a cake, and then there's like what do you call those skewers? The wooden stick skewers, and then there's like marshmallow, hot dog, marshmallow. You guys know what I'm talking about?
I don't. What is this?
What the fuck? Are you guys kidding me?
What is
We're
that?
clearly the
Yeah, what is
right
that?
now. You're the right guy here.
Yeah.
Explain.
I Google Filipino cake. How about that? Let's just see what pops up. Filipino cake. There's got to be a hot dog.
Filipinos don't have cake. Just FYI.
Dude.
Wait,
All right.
cake.
Nothing.
They don't have that kind of cake.
Nothing. Nope. Don't
What
see
the
anything.
fuck? You guys never walked by the thing at Goldilocks and there's like a cake with hot dogs sticking out of it?
I must have blocked it out of my memory because I
Oh
spent a
my
lot of time at
God.
Goldilocks.
Today, I don't know.
I must have blocked it out of my memory because I literally do not know what you're talking about.
You see that shit? Skewer with marshmallows and hot dogs.
No, I've never seen that.
It's a Filipino
I
thing,
do
man.
not. No. Is like the really red hot dogs? Like
Yeah, fresh foods. It's
not
probably like red dye
not,
number
yeah,
20 or
not
some
like an
shit.
Oscar Mayer wiener, right?
No. Nah.
Yeah, no, I've never seen that.
All right, boys. What was our takeaway?
I guess let me start.
Yeah.
I feel way more Filipino today talking to you guys.
Hell yeah. I agree with you on that. I was not expecting the conversation to go in that direction. So that was a fun surprise for me.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think yeah. It's weird because I do like, I guess the gratitude thing is I'm like grateful that I have like some Filipino friends that kind of share the same experience. I think, as me growing up as a Filipino American, where it's like I don't know what the word is, but just I'm going through the same experience like with you guys, like us having this conversation. And I wouldn't
What's
say,
wild is all three of us came from totally different Filipino backgrounds.
yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
and I think it's like I'm culturally definitely like an American. I'm going to keep that there. Like I'm not from the Philippines. I'm not going to even pretend like I am. And so part of me, like, I do want to feel like I'm part of this country. Although like my blood is from the Philippines, I'm not there. Like I'm not a Filipino in that aspect. So I am more American, but I also understand the importance of trying to maintain that part of my culture. And food is like the one where I think like, that's why I feel passionate about it. Like I love it. I eat Filipino food probably 3 times a week. That's like my thing.
Nice.
Cause like
That's
cook it,
actually a lot, dude.
That
Dude,
is a
that's like
lot,
a
yeah.
staple, man. Like Ponce, that's why I told you, I'm like, a long time? Frick.
I don't
It's,
know. Like I can't even count how many times I've helped my mom prepare pancit and like to cut the vegetables like fine enough, you know what I mean? And like all of that takes forever. Like that's literally all I do. It's like when we're prepping for a party. Anyway, like I don't want to go on a random tangent, but it's like I've spent countless hours prepping pancit and it takes fucking forever,
as
dude.
long as you don't want the shit to look all pretty. You have a ninja?
Maybe that's why.
Like one of those
Maybe
ninja
that's why.
blenders?
I do have that, but
The one with like the multi-layer slicers?
oh, I don't have that one. No.
Okay, because that one you could just drop it all and then just boom, boom, and it'll cut things in chunks. It won't look like all julienne and pretty,
I see.
but it's fine. It does the job.
Yeah. It cooks the same though?
Yeah, because I mean, you saute all the vegetables and stuff separately,
Yeah, I see.
and then you just piece it all together when you're done.
Yeah. That's fair.
Anyway,
That's fair.
yeah, just
Yeah.
like takeaway is that I always say like, oh, I wasn't raised, but I'm like, I've known you dudes for like almost a decade now. So yeah, that statement needs to almost is not even true anymore because I'm around close people that are actually the same thing. So
No, I mean, it's funny that we took the conversation in that way. I definitely was not expecting that. I think for me, like my takeaway too is like, I think I need to do a better job of reconnecting to my Filipino roots, especially with my kids. I want them to know, what it means to be Filipino. I mean, obviously their experience is going to be different than mine. But for me, I'm almost like relying on my parents to do that because like I feel like I would do it a disservice, if I tried to do it. Like, obviously, like I'll do my best, but it's like, yeah, no, this conversation was just a really good reminder that there are a ton of Filipino people all over the world, but like specifically California. And like a lot of them grew up the same way we grew up, and as different and nuanced as that is, but like a lot of the thoughts that we shared today, it's like, actually, I don't think I've ever talked to someone else about that in that way. Like, actually, like, I think this is the first time I've actually had this conversation. So to me, that was like very unique and very special. So yeah, I appreciate you guys sharing that.
Yeah, awesome.
But yeah, boys, until the next one.
Can I give a shout out to somebody though, real quick before we go?
Of course, dude. Yeah, do it.
It's my boy Meatloaf. Dwarf follow them on Instagram. That is my man.
I love that you framed it, dude.
I love that you framed it. That's so good.
If we didn't get interrupted, they gave the option to pick a midget up, let a midget hit you with a garbage can lid. I wanted to pick the midget up, but this asshole got in the ring. So I give a shout out to the Dwarfinators.
Well, let's wrap it up. I appreciate everyone joining us on 2 Sets and 2 Cents, but we will catch you guys on the next one.